Hey there guys, and welcome to another, well, this is a special video. Instead of focusing on one manga series, I decided to do a video comparing two different industries really. The American comic book industry and the Japanese manga industry. So I will be analyzing the two respective industries and their products as well, and come to some conclusions about what they can improve, about what are the major issues that they have, and just comparing these two, right? And now you might say, okay, but why should we listen to you? You know, you're just a manga channel, right? Well, actually, no. I got into manga when I was like, what, like 20? But I was really into American comics, specifically DC comics, way before that, around the age of like 15 or 14. So yeah, I am pretty well versed with both types of comic books really, and more importantly, I'm neither an American nor a Japanese. I did not grow up with either of these two types of comic books. I actually grew up with European comic books like Asterix and Obelix, Arcos, Lucky Luke, Titef, yes. So yeah, in this way I can be a little bit more unbiased because I was introduced to both of these genres later on in life. I didn't grow up with these, so there's no nostalgia in any way. Segment number one, canon and collection value. Now here's the thing, when you buy a manga, right, let's say this one, this is just a volume, but this is just one complete story. It is entirely possible that you buy all of the volumes and eventually you have the complete story in your hands, in your collection. With American comic books, that is impossible because you have so many different versions and so many different eras of sorts. And it's not just that, it's not just the conflicting canon, right? Because people can say, oh, you know what? You can go to a local comic book store and just ask, hey, where should I begin? Okay, that's fair enough. But the thing is, what happens with older titles like this one from 1995, or like this one, again from 1995, from 2005. This is from 2005, right? These two comic books have been retconned so many times, right? This one about, what, 3-4 times now with the new 52, and for those of you who don't know, basically DC and Marvel at times, they do continuous retcons. Like every 10, 15, 20 years, they do this massive event and they relaunch everything. So this has been retconned like 3-4 times. I don't even know who this Flash is. Is it Barry Allen? I think it's Barry Allen. Is it Wally West? No idea. You know, that you reach this point where you're like, wait a second, where does this story fit into the grander scheme of things? And the thing is, it doesn't fit in. Unless you're dealing with like a major storyline or a really popular series, like the Death in the Family arc, where the second Robin dies in the hands of the Joker and then turns into Red Hood. Now, this is a very historical piece. If you have that comic book, that's great. But not every comic book is like that. A lot of stories are simply forgotten, lost, you know, retconned. And you end up thinking, like, what is the value of having older comic books anymore, if that's the case? Like, even this, which is like much more recent, the New 52, what is the value of this comic book nowadays? This has been retconned. This is not the Justice League anymore. But with this, you're able to say, hey, you know what? This is the canon. It's one line of comic books That's it. It's one line of manga. You collect it all, you have the full story in your hands, in your collection. This manga has been out for what, 20 years? It has not been retconned. And it will not be retconned. You'll never have retellings, reimaginings, or, anything of the sort. So I guess point goes to manga, because you can have the complete story. Segment number 2, creativity and the rights of the writer. Right? So let me explain what I mean by this. With American comic books nowadays, because most of the creators are already dead, most of the original creators of these characters are dead, or they're not writing them anymore. So what happens is these characters, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Iron Man, they are given as a loan to these writers. They get to write them for like one arc, for their respective run. For what, like 12, 15 issues? And that's it. Then they end their contract and then they return the character. The problem with this is you can't really go ham with these characters. You can't take them into weird new directions. Even if it feels that this direction is the right direction to take the character. You can never conclude a character's story. No, the characters have to always sort of come back to where they began with your run. Unless you're given the permission by the editor, by DC Comics, to kill a character, you can't kill a character. You can't do these kind of things, and that greatly restricts what the writer can do and how satisfying an arc feels. Because a lot of times when a writer's run ends, there's almost like a mini reboot at the next with the next writer, because the previous villain, the villain of the previous run, may not be mentioned again for a while, maybe even ever again, right? And again, you have to give back the character the way you found them. With manga, that's not the case. You can go ham. You can go crazy, You can take these characters and take them into weird directions wherever you want. Sure, there is some interference by the publishing house, but if you want to kill Kakyoin and keep him killed for the entirety of your series, you can do that. Araki. But it just goes to show you have more freedom. And more importantly, they can actually end the story. Because I don't know about you guys, but I love a good ending. Like, yes, if you have a good start of an adventure and then you have a cool middle part in a manga, that's amazing. But if the ending is not good, the entire journey for me feels like it was done for nothing. And with American comic books, you cannot end a story. You cannot bring closure to a character. Even if you have a superhero finally settling down and having a family, well, the next writer is going to come in and is going to kill that family in the next arc, so that the superhero can go back into action. So again, second point goes to manga. Now let's talk about the content, the stories that these two genres tell. Now, I want to focus on an issue that I've seen with a lot of manga and anime as well, which is how gimmicky and how fan servicey they can get. You see a fat character? Well, he must be talking about food constantly. Why? Because he's a gimmick. You see a girl with huge oppai? Oh, well, that's going to be her entire character. Right? And there are hundreds, possibly even thousands of series whose sole narrative circles around a single quirk, a single gimmick. Like, oh, this character has a hiccup whenever he wants to confess. Oh, this character has a huge nose and he bumps into things. Some of these titles can get so gimmicky and so fan servicey at times. You don't normally see this with American comics. There is some fan service, and some characters are kind of like gimmicks. You know, like Garfield, for instance. Oh, he hates Mondays and he loves lasagna. But this is like a short strip series, you know. This is not a long-running, multiple-volume, expansive narrative series. It's just a series of gags that happen. So yeah, I think this is a legitimate issue. It really lessens the narrative, and it brings down the overall quality of the content. I think manga can do much better with their characters. If they want to be tongue-in-cheek and funny, they can do that, but sometimes it gets way too gimmicky. So, point goes to comics. Segment number 4. Publishing house and editor intervention. Now, this is something very specific, you might say. It's as if you want to give a point to the American comics mix. But the reality is that it really affects a huge chunk of the manga that are produced and written every year. And it actually negatively affects them. That's why I want to talk about it. We've seen hundreds, perhaps thousands of times, manga that begin really strong. The first arc is great. But then the second arc is like, okay, whatever, it kind of continues. And then the final arcs, they get worse. Sometimes they're axed way before their time because the publishing house or the editor said, you know what, you have 5 chapters. No, 3 chapters to conclude the story. You can't? Well, that's your problem. The manga is not selling anymore. You know? So at any point, any mangaka can have his series axed. At any point. You know, so you cannot even conclude your narrative, right? And there are other cases where some series seem to drag on, and they seem like, you know what, this series could have been 2 arcs or 3 arcs tops, but no, we have to have 4, 5, 6, 7 arcs. We have to reach 100 chapters. Why? Why do we have to reach 100 chapters? Why can't we have 40, 50 amazing chapters and that's it? No, because we gotta serialize this, man. And this is something that even Araki mentioned, Hirohiko Araki, the writer of JoJo's, mentioned in this book. You can't have a really well-written but short series because it's not gonna get published. They'll tell you, cool series, it won't get serialized. We can't get 3-4 years of content off of this. And then the second result of all this is that because all these writers are afraid their series will get axed, they don't really plan ahead, and they don't have the whole manga planned from the beginning. They kind of go one arc at a time, and you can really tell with some series. I'm looking at you, The Promised Neverland. So this is a huge issue, and in a way, the American comics have dealt with this by the previous thing I mentioned, by these contracts where you get the character for 12 issues. Yes, sometimes they get axed quickly there as well, but no, you know that you're going to have 12 issues. What can you write? What is the story you want to tell with these 12, 14, or like 24, I don't know how many issues. And then American writers can actually plan this through. Yeah, I guess point goes to comic books. As you can tell, I'm a pretty big Green Lantern fan. So we're kind of like a stalemate, like 2 points and 2 points. There's definitely positives and there's definitely negatives with the way that these comic books are made and the stories are told. Now, if I had to pick one of these 2 genres and just give it a slight edge over the other, I would probably go with manga. And now, the reason for this is that I can see a lot more creativity and a lot more new blood, new people coming into manga. Whereas with American comic books, a lot of times I feel that we're circling around the same characters, the same concepts: Batman, Iron Man, Spider-Man. And you don't have new characters coming in. You don't have new writers coming in a lot of times. You don't have new concepts coming in. Like I would love to see a DC or Marvel comic book series that is solely focused on a bizarre magic fantasy world. But no, we can't have that because Batman is selling, so we gotta keep publishing Batman. Right? I get it. It's a business practice. But eventually, you're gonna get to the point where some of these cash cows don't produce as much. Whereas with manga, there's always this attempt to find the new big hit, the new big, series. And that's why you have this continuous flow of new artists, new mangaka coming in, publishing their stories in a myriad of magazines. You have Shonen Jump for shonen, you have Giga Jump for other stuff, you have other magazines that are focused more on seinen or shoujo manga. So there's a lot more variety to choose from as well. So yeah, I'll probably give the edge to manga, but I genuinely love American comic books as well, and they've told some amazing stories. I'm not gonna forget that. Not gonna deny that. Yeah. So I want you guys to tell me, what do you think about all the issues that I raised? What do you think about American comics? What do you think about manga? What do you think about European comics as well? I should probably make a video about European comics eventually. Yeah, just tell me, what do you think about the artists, about creativity, about the control that the publishing houses have? And let's have a conversation about that in the comment section. Today's video was a little bit different, but hey, I really enjoyed it. I really got to show off a teeny tiny part of my collection. I have a lot more comic books, but yeah, as you can see, I'm a big Flash and Green Lantern fan. But anyway, yeah, so tell me, who's your favorite superhero, who's your favorite manga character. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and smash the subscribe button. And if you want to see more discussion type videos like this one, well, leave a comment down below and tell me, hey man, we want to see you show off your collection, talk about different series, talk about different aspects, and I'll consider it. Yeah. As always, have a great day, guys, and well, see you in my next video. Until next time, fellow, I don't know.